Hey, I'm Keith. I'm a media analyst, and I want to take a look at the recent mayoral debates in New York City.
The first foreign visit by a mayor of New York is always considered significant. Where would you go first? Left to right, Ms. Adams.
I want to just start off by pointing out that this seems like a very odd question. Why would a mayor be visiting a foreign country? You know, in terms of the hierarchy of governance, a mayor is pretty low in general. The president obviously represents the country as a whole, and foreign visits are a very normal thing. A governor would come after that, leading the state, and already it's a little questionable, like, why would a governor visit another country? Perhaps if it bordered a different country, and states are large. A mayor, though, it's very strange, this idea that a mayor has any diplomatic duties beyond its own constituency. I live in Los Angeles, and our mayor, Karen Bass, famously was visiting Ghana for some reason during the fires of 2020, of January of 25. It's very odd that that would be the case, isn't it? But I do think that there is some reading between the lines that has to be done here. So let's listen to what everyone says, starting with Ms. Adams. I'm not sure if she's related to the current Governor Adams.
First visit, I would visit the Holy Land.
Short and sweet, doesn't even need to just say what the Holy Land is. I guess that's how obvious that kind of comment is in this context of a New York mayorship.
Cuomo?
Given the hostility and the anti-Semitism that has been shown in New York, I would go to Israel.
I like this answer from Andrew Cuomo. He sounds a little old. It doesn't have the panache. It doesn't have the conviction that I would expect in terms of a reading of those lines. But that answer is written very nicely. He's contextualizing the answer. He's explaining why we would even care or why this should be interesting to any of us watching this. And it's true. New York has more Jewish people than anywhere in the world except for maybe save Tel Aviv. So it's of utmost importance to a lot of New Yorkers that this rise in anti-Semitism, especially since October 7th, it should be curbed and addressed, and people want to feel safe and protected in this city. So I like this answer quite a bit, to be honest.
Mr. Tilson, where would you go?
Yeah, I'd make my fourth trip to Israel, followed by my fifth trip to Ukraine, two of our greatest allies fighting on the front lines of the global war on terror.
I think this is also a well-written answer. He's bragging a bit that he's such an avid traveler, but he's highlighting not only Israel, but also Ukraine. And these are the two foreign affairs that the U.S. government is obviously very actively engaged in at the moment. If I can editorialize a bit, I agree with this. I think it's valid that a liberal democracy shows support for other liberal democracies. That is what the US's game plan is worldwide, to have free trade among all constitutional republics because they make good trade partners. And I've come around on this, not to go too much into my own politics, but I think it makes a lot of sense for most people in the West of Europe and the USA and Australia, etc., that we recognize this, that this is our lifestyle. And if I'm a New Yorker, especially if I'm a Jewish New Yorker, I have a lot of sympathy for this answer, because this global war on terror, of which I was very critical back in the W. Bush days, it is a real thing. It's called Islamic Jihad. And it's kind of undeniable to anyone that's paid attention. So it makes a lot of sense that someone representing so many Jewish people in New York might stand up against that.
Mr. Mamdani.
I would stay in New York City. My plans are to address New Yorkers across the 5 boroughs and focus on that.
When I first saw this clip, that part, it was cut off before that part, or maybe I just scrolled on and didn't see this part. But at first I thought, okay, this is a really strange question in a debate, as I've already described. Of course, everyone's going to give lip service to this thing because obviously New York has so many Jewish people. This is actually a very refreshing take, and it it's nice to hear. Like, I like hearing this. Like I said earlier, it's a little strange that a mayor of a city in this continent would make such a fuss about going overseas to that other continent to, to just give lip service, to look good politically. So I guess, like, I have a soft spot for what he said here. Like, it makes sense. It's a very sensible answer. It's very reasonable. And I think even in LA and New York, it's nice to hear that. I think exceptions can be made given how large our cities are and how these politicians from such places do have higher political aspirations. I think there's some reasonable amount of exception to be made for a foreign visit, but he's right on. Like, if I'm a New Yorker, I want my mayor to represent me. I don't really care about what he's doing in foreign countries.
Mr. Mamdani, can I just jump in? Would you visit Israel?
So now we have the panel of question askers, moderators. We have them now pushing a little bit deeper, which strikes me first as like a little strange. Like, why are we going on with this? But the more we know about Zohran Mamdani, the more we might want to have all of his thoughts on this out on the table. He is Muslim, and that might not necessarily matter at all, of course, but maybe it might. So we want to explore that tension.
No,
As mayor?
I will be doing, as the mayor, I'll be standing up for Jewish New Yorkers, and I'll be meeting them wherever they are across the 5 boroughs, whether that's in their synagogues and temples, or at their homes, or at the subway platform, because ultimately we need to focus on delivering on their concerns.
So he's evaded the question. She asked him a very direct question, would you visit Israel as mayor? And he did not answer it. And again, my initial take is, who cares if you visit Israel? But now the more he's slipping out of this direct question, the more I'm becoming suspicious of him. He's given some good words to this topic. He's saying the right things. Meeting New Yorkers where they are, whomever they are, in any place of worship. He is doing good in terms of representing New Yorkers, not being prejudiced against anybody. He doesn't have a problem with Jewish people in his city. That feels clear here. But he's not wanting to talk about Israel whatsoever.
Yes or no, do you believe in a Jewish state of Israel?
So here we are, the moderator is just like cutting to the chase. And this is kind of the question that I think a lot of New Yorkers want answered, because it has become such a divisive question. This is essentially the Zionist question. Zionism was settled so long ago. It was the plea for a Jewish state. It's been done. A Jewish state has existed for a long time. The fact that we're revisiting this topic is already unnerving. Like, do you believe in a country of the USA? It's done. It exists. Like, why would you ask that? It's been settled for 400 years. Why are we bringing up whether or not it should exist? It feels very charged and threatening if you are a Jewish person, or in my example, an American person. Why would we even be questioning whether or not it should exist? It exists. Why are we talking about it?
I believe Israel has the right to exist.
Now his confidence is wavering here. I can feel him not wanting to be direct, not wanting to say what he really thinks about Israel. This sentence also looks good. This is what somebody should say. But he's tiptoeing around something very, very important, and he knows it, and the moderator knows it.
Not
As a Jewish state?
No,
As a state with equal rights.
As a state with equal rights. Israel has equal rights. There are politicians that are Muslim Arab in Israel right now. There are shopkeepers and entrepreneurs and citizens with equal voting rights, equal property rights in Israel, in Tel Aviv, right now. So Israel ensures equal rights because as a constitutional republic, the same as the USA and Germany and France and most other democracies as we know them. But it is a Jewish state. It was founded to be the home of Jewish people. And when I was younger, I took that to mean religion. And, I'm a Sam Harris, Christopher Hitchens kind of new atheist fan. So, like Christopher Hitchens, I thought, well, maybe it is weird that Israel exists as a Jewish state. Why do we have to do that? Why can't we just have what America has, which is an extremely secular constitution? But when you dig deeper in history and you grow up a bit, you kind of realize that it's not like it's the only religious state. There are like over 20 Muslim states that are like very much demonstrably Muslim in their statehood. So it's not like some special thing to be a nation state. Mostly it's with ethnicity. Judaism can be considered an ethnicity and a religion, so it's a little weird to think it through all the way. But regardless, I've accepted that countries are allowed to be nationalistic. Most of them are. China's nationalistic, Japan's nationalistic, Korea's nationalistic, and on and on. Every Asian country, and most European countries as well. France is for the French, England for the English. This has been taken to be a very rah-rah, jingoist, racist dog whistle to say something like this. I can see that perspective, but ultimately, it's fair enough if a group of people want to maintain their identity within their borders. That is a very reasonable thing to do. It's not necessarily problematic. So I think that it's okay to take people at their word when they say something like that. In this case, the Jewish state of Israel is self-defined as a Jewish state in order to defend itself and protect itself from outward threat. And that threat, just to spell it out a bit, is that if the Jewishness is removed from the state of Israel and it's flooded by malevolent actors, for instance, jihadists, or even Muslim people that have a hint of disdain toward Jewish people, which is extremely common in the Middle East, by the way, then perhaps it's at risk of being destroyed from within. If enough people get into governance in Israel that are hostile toward Judaism, they could easily, or not easily, they could feasibly remove Judaism and Jews from Israel. So that is what must be understood here, to read between the lines a little bit.
He won't
Not as a
say it
Jewish
has a
state.
right to exist as a Jewish state. Be very
And
clear
his
on
answer
that.
was no, he won't visit Israel.
I said that very
That's what he was
clearly.
trying to say.
No. Unlike
No,
you, I
he
answer.
never-
Unlike
he
you, I
never
answer
said
questions
no.
very.
Okay.
Okay, now he's a liar. And again, I'm open-minded on Zohran Mamdani. I'm not sure how he'll be as a mayor if he does win the general election. But he's lying. He does not answer questions very directly. He has not answered one single question in this 1 minute span directly whatsoever. He's said a lot of good things, but he hasn't been direct. Unlike Cuomo did answer it directly, and he expounded on it very concisely and offered perfect context for his answer. So this is like really obfuscating the issue, and I mean, quite frankly, it's gaslighting. Cuomo knows, we know as the viewer, that Cuomo answered the questions directly, and Mamdani is saying, no, I answer questions directly, you don't. And I find that to be very slimy, personally.
Directly.
All right.
My goal would be to take my first trip to Israel. My wife's life work in this area means a lot to our family, and it could coincide with my young son Miles' bar mitzvah.
If you like that one. Poor guy, whoever this is, obviously overshadowed by Mamdani and the rest of the circus here. But a good answer also. A good answer. You know, he's talking about it in the context of personal interest and having family that is Jewish, which is comforting to Jewish people in New York. So it's a good answer. And he's even maintaining a secular, modern attitude. If my son would like to have a bar mitzvah, because he doesn't have to. And again, I know many Jews. I lived in New York for 10 years. I don't know if any of them were actually very religious. None of them were living a strict code of conduct, as it were. And I would even go as far to say that Judaism is one of the most modernized religions, in that it's so compatible with Western values. And I think this moment is very interesting because New York has elected Mamdani, and so far he's looking pretty radical in terms of his approach to most topics. But on this topic especially, it's a little concerning. He's gotten a lot of support from explicitly anti-Zionist social media people, people that are tired of Zionism, people that are tired of USA's involvement in foreign wars, especially with Israel, because Israel is like running the show or something, and the whole planet's run by Jews or something, and on with conspiratorial thinking. Again, Zionism is done. Anyone that talks about Zionism now scares me, because that just implies that they'd rather have no Israel exist at all right now, and that sounds very genocidal, if not nuclear. I don't know how you get rid of a whole country like that. But one way that Hamas and others in radical Islam talk about getting rid of a Jewish state, besides war, is from within, by taking it over, breeding more, and replacing laws with Islamic laws. So again, this is why this is so interesting, and I'm going to remain cautiously open-minded about Zohran. I don't know about government-run grocery stores. I don't know why you can't just give benefits or incentives to current bodegas and grocery stores, but whatever. He does want to do a lot of good things like spreading wealth. I support that. He wants life to be better for most people. I support that. But I don't know why we have to let this continuation of this anti-Israel, anti-Jewish sentiment foment. I think it's dangerous. I think if you want to be pro-Palestinian, it would be much more mature and rational to talk about a two-state solution and why that has never happened, to talk about how to offer refugee status to a war-torn place like Gaza. Why won't its neighbors like Egypt and Jordan take them in? These are the questions that people should be wondering. If you care about the babies being killed in Gaza, maybe wonder, why is it that they're being killed? How is it that Israel is targeting them exactly? How has Hamas aided and embedded this? Is it perhaps the plan to sacrifice your population for the sake of PR? Could that be? I'll let you dig in from there, but I find it interesting, and I find it interesting also how it relates to American politics here. All right, guys, until next time, ciao.